Wiggle Bones, the ultimate three.js library to give life to your 3D models like balloons, jellyfishes, flowers, or... Hi, welcome to 3D Snippets, where we explore 3D web development into easy-to-digest chunks. Today we will explore the library made by the amazing
Xavier
Wiggle Bones. We will start by making a simple rounded box.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Then... No, this is for another video, and only if this one reaches 1000 likes. What we will do is different, but not less interesting. Before we dive in, if you're new to three.js and 3D web development, check out my course, React 3 Fiber, the ultimate guide to 3D web development. This course takes you from the basics to advanced techniques, with project-based lessons helping you build a solid foundation to bring your ideas and imagination to life. Link in the description below. Let's clone the starter pack. Git clone, paste the URL, link in the description, and I will enter the final path. Enter. Once it's done, file and open the folder. Now we are inside run yarn to install the dependencies, or npm install if you are using it. Then yarn dev to start the development server. You can follow the link. You should arrive here. You have a cube. You can move with pivot control from dry. You have the UI ready for the final project we'll build together, but for now you can ignore it. Let's prepare a special cube that we will be able to make wiggle. Let's open Blender. I recommend you to download the latest version. File, New, General. Hit A to select everything and X to delete. I will hide my cam to not hide things on the bottom right. Okay, let's create our cube. I will go in front view, Shift A to add something, a mesh, a cube. I won't move it from now, I'm in object mode here. I will switch to edit mode. Or you can use tab, edit mode. I select everything with A, GZ to move it vertically. I will put the origin at 0. Fine. Now I will take the top face. So I can click here to go to face selection or hit 1, 2, 3. Here again I will go to front view, GZ, and I will adjust it. I will double the height. To make it look a bit better, what I can do is select everything, Command B to enable bevel. Then I will make it just a little bit like this. With the mouse wheel I can decide the number of cuts we have. So I add a few so it doesn't look broken. Perfect. Now currently, if we look at our cube in wireframe mode, you can see that we don't have vertices here to animate. So if we try to animate, it will only move. For example, here it will look weird. It won't be able to wobble, wiggle. For this, we need to add more vertices to cut our cube into multiple ones. So let's go to front, put back material preview, Command R to open the loop cuts. Move your cursor so you see that yellow line, and with the mouse wheel you can determine how many loop cuts you want. So I will add a few. You don't have to overdo it to not create too many faces. Okay, click, then you can adjust, but just hit escape key. And if it's not perfect, on the bottom left here, you can adjust the number of cuts and so on. Fine, it should be good. We can go into object mode. Look at the wireframe, so we have a few cuts. Let's go back. Now we can add our bones. So we need to do Shift A, search for single bone, and we can see it because it's inside the cube. What we can do is here, click on the armature data, viewport display in front. That will make the bone appear in front of everything. Now, when you are on the bone selected, go to edit mode, take the top part and move it to the top of the cube. Then select it, subdivide, and adjust the number of divisions you want based on the effect you want. If I do only 2 bones like here, it won't be able to wobble nicely. Let's see what we can do. Maybe 4 bones should be enough. So 4 cuts will do 5 bones. Okay, let's do it. Now our bones should be good. What we can do when we are on the first bone, we can rename it so later in our code we will easily have access to it. Currently it's bone, we can name it root bone. We won't need to have access to the others, but you could rename them too if you want. Now we can go to pose mode. If you don't see pose mode, if you are on the mesh, so object mode, if you don't see pose mode, it means you are not on the armature. So you need to select the bone and then pose mode. If you move it, it won't impact our mesh behind. Well, actually, it's not behind, it's in the middle. It's perfectly in the middle. This is because we need to attach weight to the bone, so they will impact the mesh. What we need to do, let's go back to front view, object mode. We select first the mesh, then with shift, we select the armature, and then Command P, so it will set the parent to the armature, and you will use with automatic weights. What it does is it's attaching our mesh to the armature, and it will calculate weights for each bone based on their position and the structure of the mesh. Let's try it. Let's select the armature, pose mode, and now if we rotate, you can see the impact of each bone if you move them, rotate them, each bone on the mesh. To visually see it, go back to object mode, select first the armature, then the mesh, and switch to weight paint mode. And you can see the weight for each bone. To select a different bone, on Mac, I don't know, on Windows, I guess it's maybe similar, Control Shift, and then you click on the bone you want to see the weight, and you can adjust it. But I'm not myself a Blender expert, so I can give you a depth overview of weight painting, but you can find a bunch of useful tutorials on YouTube. For this simple example, the automatic weight paint works well. So now our mesh is ready. We can export it. File, export into GLB GLTF, the best for three.js. Inside our project public models, we already have the kebab ready. And let's name it box.glb. What I like to do is data compression, but it's a simple model, so I don't think it's doing a lot. Export GLTF. I'm back. I hope you are happy to see me again. Let's try to load our newly created box and to make it wiggle. Let's hide the terminal, go to source, components, and we will create one that we will name wigglebox.jsx. Export const wigglebox. We will load our model, const scene is equal to use gltf of /models/box.glb. Is it the right name? Go public models, yeah, box with an uppercase letter. Then we will return a primitive with the object will be the scene. And let's see what we have. Let's import it in our experience. Instead of the default box from dry, we will use our wiggle box. This is way too big, but we can see it here. It's movable, but it's not wiggling for now because we are not doing anything. Before preparing for wiggling, let's scale it down, maybe to 0.2, and it's better. We can move it, it appears nicely. It's not the final thing, so we don't care too much. Let's install the Wiggle library. There is a nice documentation. It's based on three.js, but it's very easy to use in React 3 Fiber. It's what we will do together. We need to add Wiggle. Open the terminal, yarn add Wiggle. Once it's done, yarn dev, and go back to our code. To easily get access to the bones, I will access the node from the use gltf. Then, in a use effect, when the nodes change, so when they become available, we will do some process on them. For now, just console log the nodes. We can see we have an object containing the armature, the different bones. We have the root bone, the one that interests us. And while you could dynamically find the bones, what we will do is we will use its name because we prepared the model ourselves, and we can use it easily. Using Wiggle library is very easy. We need to store all the wiggle bones. We'll store them in a use reference. It's an array of bones we want to make wiggle. So it will contain all our bones. To do this, to iterate through all bones, we will do nodes.rootBone.traverse. It will iterate starting from the root bone to its children. If we go back to Blender, we have the root bone. I will go to edit mode. So we have root bone, which is the parent of bone 04, of bone 03. So we will go one by one. Then a callback function will be called. I guess it's a bone, but it could be something else. A good thing to do is to check if bone is a bone. To use the library, we need to declare a wiggle bone will be equal to new wiggle bone. From wiggle, we pass the bone and some option. The one in the example is the velocity. We'll play with it later. Once you have created your instance of wiggle bone, push it to wigglebones.current.push and wiggle bone. We have done half of the work. It's very easy. Then in use frame, we will need to update those bones. We do it by wigglebones.current.forEach. So for each wiggle bone, we will call wigglebone.update. Let's try it. And when we move it, it's wiggling, but it's way too slow. Let's change the velocity. Maybe to something like 0.2. Let's try it. And it's better. We can rotate it, and it's not perfect. I think it's not the best idea to make the first one wiggle here. We'll just use it as a reference and only make the other ones wiggle. What we can do is check that bone is not nodes.rootBone. We will apply it only to its children. Let's try to see if we have better results doing it. And it seems so. It's way better. Currently, I'm reloading every time because when I save, it will re-trigger the use effect and we will create even more and more wiggle bones. Instead, let's do things properly. We will empty wigglebones.current. We can do .length equal to 0. And in the cleanup function of our use effect, what we will do is for each bone, we can iterate like this. We will call a reset. It will put back our bones in the correct initial position. And also dispose. You won't see any change, but if you reinstantiate your use effect, it will work properly. Now let's use the correct model because wiggling with the kebabs and this cube is not very accurate. Let's go to our best friend Mixamo. Go into the character section and choose the character you want. I decided to choose Ortiz. Here, Ortiz. We will be using this one. Once you have one you like, click on it, or if you have another model, you can upload it here. Then let's take some animations. Go to animations, clear here. We'll be using two animations, waving with the two arms for the home screen. Download, and we can take download with gain for the first one. And then the second, if I remember, it's twist dance. Where is it? Here, twisted dance. So you can see it will have a nice belly animation. Without, it doesn't look so great. So download again, but you can skip the skin without skin. And we will merge the two in Blender. Back in Blender, we can do File, New, General, Don't Save, and I will disappear again. Same process, A to select everything, X, delete, OK. File, Import, it's FBX downloaded from Mixamo. Go to Downloads and take the two files. We have waving. When you import waving, you will see only the model. And let's import the dance too. Maybe I could import both at the same time. Okay, so now I have both armatures, but I don't want it. I just want the animation. So we can directly delete hierarchy of the second armature. Open the bottom here. Go to Dope Sheets and Action Editor. Select the main armature of your character. Currently it has one animation. I don't know which one it is. It's waving. So we just rename it waving and push down. Then we will switch to the second one. it is the dance. So we'll name it dance and then push down. Now if we go to nonlinear animation here, we can see our model will have the two animations exported for when we will use it in three.js. Perfect. Now what we want to do is to add extra bones for the belly animation, belly wobbling. A few things to do. First, go here to the data object properties, viewport display, and in front like we did. And to be able to easily change the bones and add new bones, go into rest position. Now we can go in front view, zoom it a little bit, and in edit mode to add our new bones. What I found worked the best after many trials and error, so you can go on left or right, and I chose to attach it to here, the bottom of this bone, which is named spine. The spine of our model. I select the dot on the bottom, and to easily add a connected bone, you can just use E to extrude the bone and move it where you want. Be careful, because if you hit ESC key, your bone is created. So if you move it, the bone exists. Be sure that you don't create ghost bones. So G again, we move it somehow up. It's not a perfect science. This bone we won't animate it or make it wiggle. Then you can extrude again. This one will be wiggling. And another one where I found it worked the best is here in this line, in the angle of the belly. I never thought I would do a video about it, but I'm happy to do it. Now what we will need to do is to name our bone to have easily access to it. I don't know if I will choose this one, it's named Spine 001, or this time we will start by the one that wiggle. We'll name it Belly 01. We can also name, for convention purpose, Belly 02, and we are good. Go into front view, object mode, be sure that you are on the armature, and pose mode. Again, if you move it, it's doing nothing. First it's telling me go to pose position, but we didn't weight paint it. So we need to do it. To do it, we need to go back into rest position, switch again to object mode, select first the armature and then the mesh. If I'm taking time explaining it, it's because I had a lot of frustration not knowing really what was happening. Then you can go to weight paint, select your bones, Control Shift, weights, assign automatic from bones. And you will see where these bones has impact on the character. This one we created, we won't assign weight. We just want it to be connected to the spine and to move accordingly. But it has no impact on the mesh. It's just meant to move our bone here and this one. This one, assign automatic from bones. Perfect. So we see it will make this zone wobble a lot and has some impact on the side. Of course, you can fine-tune the effect with the weight paint functionality of Blender, but the automatic one gave me good results. Now let's try to see if it's working properly. Go front, object mode, select armature, pose mode. If we move it, pose position, sorry. If we move it, it has an impact on our belly and the whole body itself. We will see in 3D if it's correct. Be sure before exporting that you are in pose position, or it will always stick into rest position. Go pose position, file, export, GLB, GLTF, again, public, models, then skibidi, data, compression, it will reduce the overall file size, export GLTF. And I'm back again. Before loading it, let's preview if our model has the animation. You can click on skibidi.glb. To have the GLB preview, it's a Visual Studio extension. Extension is here, 3E from Dgrid. If you install it, you will be able to do like me here to preview the 3D model. textured. I don't have my, oh, it's okay here. And then you have the two animation, you can preview it, fine. I already prepared a component to load the avatar and to play the animation. Let's change it, or I named it Skibidi. With a lowercase letter, let's adjust it. Skibidi, like this. And let's load it inside our experience. Instead of the wiggle box, we'll be using Skibidi component, and the animation will be equal to, based on if we are in Skibidi mode or not. If it is Skibidi, we'll play dance. If not, we'll play waving, if I name the animation like this. All right, to let you know, Skibidi, it's what the UI is controlling. It's a shared state with an atom. And when we press the button, it will set Skibidi to true. Let's try it. We have the lovely model. You can see that the quality is high, but the file size is also high. If we move it, no wiggle for now. We can play the animations, but we need to add the wiggle. Before doing it, I'd like to change the control because visually it's taking too much space. Instead of using pivot controls, I like to use transform controls, again from dry. I think it's mode is equal, we would take only translate, but I've had an issue. I don't know why it's positioned very low here. It's in the bottom. A quick solution I found, but I don't know why we have to do this, is to position Y to 1, and our model will position it at -1. So it will compensate the move from the parent. Here we are. We have our model. It's ready for wiggle. The process is exactly the same. That's what we did earlier. Go to Skibidi component, then create Wiggle Bones, an array for our Wiggle Bones instances. We have a use effect on the scene, but we will create a separate one, a use effect based on the nodes, but also on if we are currently in a wiggle mode. Let's name it wiggle. And what it is in the UI. We have two buttons. We have one to start without wiggle and one with wiggle. So we can see the difference. To get access to it, we have const, it's a state, so wiggle is equal to use atom of the wiggle atom. Let's do it. We start by emptying it. Current length is 0. Then instead of going directly nodes.belly01, what we can do if we have multiple bones we want to animate is we name all of them. So belly01. We don't add belly02 here because it's a child and we will automatically traverse it to go to the children. Then you do .forEach on this array. You will have access to the name of the root bone you want to iterate from. And inside this function, you check if your nodes of root bone, so belly01 exists. Here it exists. We want to check if it doesn't. If it doesn't, we don't do the process. It's just safety. Here it's an example, but on your project it can be very useful. Then the process, we had nodes of root bone, traverse, again safety measure, if bone is bone, const wiggle bone is equal to new wiggle bone of the bone with the velocity here. Okay, perfect. And we push it. By the way, we don't want to do this process if we are not wiggle. So here we would return. And again, in the cleanup function of our use effect, it's here, the end of our use effect, return for each wiggle bone, we will call reset and dispose. Here it's very important because we will switch between wiggle and not. Then last thing, in a use frame, we iterate through all our wiggle bones and we update them. But I think I wrote it inside the use effect. Let's move it below instead. Let's reload. And by default, we have the wiggle. When we don't start, wiggle is enabled. So we can try to move it and we can see the belly is moving nicely. It's not a very strong effect, but it's moving. Let's try without wiggle. Not wiggling anymore. And with wiggle, It is doing it, but it's not very strong effect. We want to push more. To do this, instead of using wiggle bone with velocity, we can use spring values. Let's remove the import of wiggle bone and the settings here. And when we do the import, we have the choice between the wiggle and wiggle/spring. It's the same behavior, but the options here are different. Now you have access to spring option like damping. You can find the parameters in the documentation of wiggle spring, stiffness and damping. Good values I found is damping 10 and stiffness to 300. Let's try here. If we move, whoa, it's very nice. And with the dance, it's doing the nice effect. If we compare without, it's not very moving. While with the wiggle, I like it when I stop it, it enables the wiggle and look at this. And with the wiggle dance, perfect. If you want to go further, what you can do is have a look at the documentation. We have seen the essentials, but the creator made some video tutorials to show you exactly what to do on more complex scenarios. They are accessible only if you are one of the supporters of the library. And I am one of them. I will put you the link in the description if you want to back this project and get access to the awesome tutorials. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a lot from this video and will make interesting things wiggle. Please hit the like button for you know what. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss the upcoming video tutorials and to check out my course if you want to feel confident creating 3D web projects with React 3 Fiber. You can also continue your learning journey with this video, available here.